Hit the shower. Grab your coffee. And get ready to attack the weekend with Charlie Usen and Jack Pembroke as they catch you up on everything Wisconsin sports you may have missed this past week. All before you even finish your breakfast. It's Wisconsin Sports Weekend, brought to you by the Apollo Cafe on Brady Street. 25 years of Greek tradition. Enjoy gyros, souvlaki, fresh salads, and the legendary Zeus Burger. Dine in, take out, or get it delivered. Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar of flavor, on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
How we doing, folks? How we doing? Like the big voice lady just said, you are listening to Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, and we are presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. I'm Charlie Usen, my guy Jack Pembroke on the other side of the glass there. We hope you had a wonderful New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, a little bit of time to relax with family, maybe without the family, since you spent so much time with the family the past couple of weeks. Jack, what'd you do on your New Year's Eve, man?
I'm an old soul, so I was in bed by like 11:30.
Had the nightcap on,
yeah,
the gown, the little candle and stuff. Yeah, over to the side.
Charles Dickens.
I get that. I went out for a little bit, and then I ended up at home before midnight as well. Was just relaxing. It was nice to kind of have that time. You know, I'm only 24, but I do feel the old age settling in, earlier than normal. Do you think that's like something like a lot of younger people are dealing with, Jack, lately?
They're saying the Gen Zs don't go out to the bars as much, so I don't know. They say.
That's they. Again, we are Wisconsin Sports Weekend. Welcome in. We got 2 hours of a great show for you guys. We are on until 11. So stay with us for that. We are live streaming on YouTube and on X at WI Sports Radio. You can see our lovely faces over there. Or if you don't like our lovely faces, that's okay too. We're on all over the state, WNFL in Green Bay. We're out in Oshkosh, all these other places. So you can listen to us on air as well. Makes it real easy, real simple. Find us anywhere that's easiest for you. Like I said, we got a great show for you guys today at 9:20. We're going to dive into the Packers being the number 7 seed for yet again another straight season that happened after last Saturday's loss to the Baltimore Ravens. Pretty dismal performance from the Green Bay Packers. But we want to know, is everybody's job safe for one more year just because they made the playoffs? Is this something where the Packers need to make big changes moving forward in the season, or are they in the playoffs and everybody's good? You got another year on that as well. We want to dive into the Bucs taking down the Hornets last night in the final seconds of that game. They won it on a Giannis alley-oop from Kevin Porter Jr., which was awesome. A bunch of really clutch three-point shooting from this team. We want to know if they can do that against better teams. If this is a situation for the Milwaukee Bucks where they can only take down these poor teams, the Charlotte Hornets, the Washington Wizards, who they didn't even beat in the last game. They lost by 1 point to them on a CJ McCollum really tough shot. This is a situation where we want to know if the Bucks and Giannis can continue to win close games against better opponents than what they've been facing. In the 10 o'clock hour, we're going to give a college football update. It's been a crazy past couple of weeks with that, a lot more entertaining than we saw the last few years. This is something that we should all be really excited about because it's a lot of fun to watch the SEC not play well, like Jack has brought up before. It's fun to see the other conferences start to rise a little bit, so let's have some fun with that. Then we got the Wisconsin Sports Weekend Warlocks Locks, always a classic here. Might have to transition into some basketball here soon, Jack. We're running out of football time.
I know.
Running out of football room here. And then we'll close up with the Wisconsin Sports Weekend Pub Crawl as always. This New Year's Eve, I spent some time at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel and Sportsbook. This station, this network is presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, so it was awesome hanging out there. While I was at this Potawatomi Sportsbook, Jack, I put $20 on my Chicago Bears to win the Super Bowl. A lot of people told me that was stupid, but I was also thinking about maybe splitting it up 10 and 10. I was going to put $10 also on Jackson Churio, Milwaukee Brewers superstar, to win MVP. I decided not to, but now I'm regretting it a little bit. So I wanted to ask the folks at home, in 2026, if you had to put money on one player, one team, to go out and win a championship, go out and win a specific award, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, Cy Young, if you want to go with a pitcher, who do you think it will be and what award will they win? And who would you put that money on? Jack, I'm going to start over there with you. It's a little New Year's Eve kind of fun topic that we're doing, kind of predicting the year of 2026. if there was one team that you had to put money on, who would that team be?
So if I'm going to Potawatomi, I'm gonna do what you didn't. I'm gonna split it. Can I do 10 and 10?
Split it. Of
Okay.
course you can go 5, 5, and 5.
Well, we'll make it simple. We'll split it right down the middle.
1, you know?
That's insane. Diabolical, Charlie. I'd go right down the middle. I'm gonna go $10 initially on Iowa State Cyclones to get to the Elite Eight.
Ooh, that's kind of out of nowhere.
Well,
are you an Iowa State fan?
Yeah, if you've been listening to us locally over the last year, you just Iowa State and Houston were kind of my if they can stay healthy teams would surprise people. Houston lived up to that. Iowa State was really injured, but this year they've really proven the believers correct. They have great outside shooting. They're physical. They've got great guard play. And they're number 3. So it's they're not exactly a Cinderella. They're not unknown, but I'd put $10 on them to get to the Elite Eight and then $10 on them to get to Final Four this year if they're healthy.
Oh, you would split it up between the same team in that situation.
Yeah.
So Iowa State and Houston in the world of college basketball, I feel like that's one of the hardest sports to want to make a futures bet on in that situation. What makes you so confident in these teams outside of like the outside shooting? Like, are their opponents, do their schedule look like it's something that's going to be favorable for that team moving forward here in the tournament? How do you think that plays out? What makes you so confident that they're an Elite Eight or Final Four type of team, even beyond just the fact that they can shoot threes and play tough defense?
Beyond being, the warlock at the station, I'm just going to have to say it's pretty simple. It's not like a secret. They're so efficient defensively and offensively that they can score with the best scoring teams, and they also can defend the best offensive teams in the country. They also are probably, and I'm not trying to slight anyone in their conference, but they probably have an easier route to winning a conference championship, having at least, if they're a top 4 team, a 1 seed. So it's going to benefit bettors if right now to get a bet in on their futures rather than wait a month because they're going to be healthy and they're going to be able to beat a lot of the top teams in this country. And I love they have European players. My dad's from Europe, so I'm a little biased.
For sure. I get that. If you look at the top 13 in the AP poll and the coaches poll right now, they're pretty similar. Like you said, Iowa State is sitting at number 3 at 12-0, but down to number 13, every team in that list has 1 or less loss.
Yep.
It's a really tough kind of landscape for college basketball right now. Last season, I think we went into that year with this kind of prediction of Marquette being really good, and Wisconsin was an up-and-coming team with the ability to hit the transfer portal and use those transfer portal players almost immediately. What do you think changed so far this year that has led to both those teams not really looking as great as they did last year, especially Marquette? Marquette looks like in disarray. They got players that are leaving the team. Zaid Lowry gets into a fight with an assistant coach, and then they kick him off the team, but then they say, well, that's not true, but then he is off the team still, so now people are still asking questions. Wisconsin has looked a little better, but has lost some games against teams that maybe they would have been more competitive against last season. What has kind of changed in your mind for those two teams and why they in 2026 obviously can't be those title contenders?
Look, the reality of things are you like in Wisconsin's case, you can go out and get guys in the transfer portal and they're not always going to be a Tanjay. They're not always going to be, you don't always hit. There's a reason people are entering the transfer portal, right? So you're not going to always hit on those moves. And I think that's kind of a little bit of what's happening now. Who knows? Maybe Wisconsin decides to get more physical on defense and they can improve themselves before the tournament. But the Big Ten is a tough landscape. You've got teams like Purdue that have 3 7-foot+ guys.
And that's their next opponent tonight in Wisconsin. They're playing Purdue.
So, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, Charlie, but that's an L for me if I'm predicting anything. Now, maybe we play well against them. I think
if it's a win, what changes in your mind? If they can go out and beat number 5 Purdue, they got number 2 Michigan in a couple in next week, probably next weekend at this rate. It still says TBD because I think that's part of the like tournaments. They put them on the national TV. But if they can go out and beat Purdue, if they can go out and put up a fight against a Michigan team, I mean, is it that easy in college basketball in your mind to kind of flip those opinions and flip those predictions? And same with Iowa State. Do you think it's pretty likely that they could fall off too at this point in the season?
I mean, sure. Basketball is an up and down sport. It's also a game of runs. You know, you could have teams that look like Iowa State, untouchable, undefeated, and then the last month before their conference, before March Madness, they just fall apart, whether it's injuries, whether it's close games, or, you know, in some situations not in their situation, but you get into your own conference tournament and some Cinderella story just wipes you off the court. But I think in basketball, it's a little bit more volatile than like football or other sports because it changes every 2 weeks, right? Your opinion can change and you're not dumb for it in this radio or TV sports world. And people have a quick memory loss. They're like a goldfish. It's like, oh, that guy said that about Iowa State. Well, 3 weeks later, they're a nothing burger. I think Iowa State has a lot of more staying power than Wisconsin or Marquette turning it around at this point in the season.
All right, fair enough. This is Wisconsin Sports Weekend. That's Jack Pembroke over there. I'm Charlie Houston, and we are live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. And we are asking you if you want to hit us up on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line. Now that it's unblocked, 414-677-1250. Again, 414-677-1250. Get on the show that way. And you can tell us, who do you think out of all your favorite teams, your favorite players, if you were to put $20 on them at your local casino, whether it's Potawatomi like we have over here, or anywhere else, Rivers Casino down in Illinois, maybe you want to hang out down there for some reason. You know, there's plenty of other places around, but Potawatomi is the best place to go, especially with that sports book, that kitchen, giant TV wall, screens with the games all day.
Charlie, the food's really good.
I had a Reuben sandwich there on New Year's Eve.
My mom loves Reuben.
Reuben's one of my favorites. That's like Reuben's, cheese curds, and then if I go to any like Chinese food place, crab rangoons. Those are the three things I got to try.
You strike me as a crab rangoon guy. My sister loves a good crab rangoon, so you'd be welcome in our household.
But you can head on over to Pato, and if you were in the situation that I was in on New Year's Eve, where you wanted to put $20 on your favorite team, on one of your favorite players, who would it be? Where would you put that money? Is it an MVP award for your favorite player? Is it a Cy Young for your favorite player? Maybe you're in the NFL and it's an offensive player of the year or defensive player of the year, rookie of the year. If you want to make a really bold prediction, we will hear it. Let us know which player, which team you would put $20 on at the Potawatomi Sportsbook, and where are you putting it on if you were in that situation. Again, hit us up on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line, 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250, 1250. Also hit us up on social media at WI Sports Radio. We are on almost every single social media. I'm live streaming on Twitter and on YouTube right now. Before I mentioned shortly one of the players that I would probably put some money on if I was at the Potawatomi Sportsbook and if I wasn't just set on putting my money on the Bears, because, you know, I got to do it.
I think you got to let it ride as a Bears fan. I got to let it ride,
right?
Yeah.
The other guy I was looking at putting money on, and his odds actually weren't too bad. It was plus 3,000, but he was, I think, the seventh option down on the list. And the list that they put out there, because Pato gives you as many options as any other sports book out there, had about 40 names on that list, and Jackson Churio was up at number 7 with that plus 3,000 odd to win National League MVP. I feel like that's something that's pretty likely, especially since this Brewers team at the end of the season last year, you saw without Jackson Churio that they could get going, and that this team offensively didn't need that young slugger at points in last season to where they could get the bats rolling for that team. And I think you throw Jackson Churio into that mix, into that hot end of the season that this Brewers team had, and you saw it when it came to the playoffs time. You saw it at the end of the season when he did come back from that injury, that he has this superstar potential that I don't see on anybody else on this team. Bryce Trang I love, and I think he had an awesome month at the end of the year last year, and he had those moments where he looks like he could be the best second baseman in the league, but I need to see that more consistently from him. William Contreras was injured a lot of the season last year, and that really kind of hurt his production until, again, the second half of the season. Jackson Churio, I feel like I don't need to see more from him. What I've seen from him when he is healthy tells me he is not only an all-star caliber player, but like an all-MLB caliber player. I think he is that good, and because of that, I think that's a guy I would probably put some money on in 2026 to win that MVP. Now, on the other hand, the Milwaukee Brewers are a team that I wouldn't be surprised if some people would put their money on that team to go and win the World Series, Jack. Do you feel like that's more or less likely than maybe let's go with the other team that's played pretty well? And I know their playoffs are going to be in 2026, and they're dealing with a lot of injuries, but do you have more faith in the Brewers to make a World Series than you do a Packers team to make the Super Bowl this year?
Yes. Mainly because we're not even at, spring training yet, but I think you have to be realistic. It would take a Herculean effort with a, legendary Zeus burger in hand for the Packers to make a Super Bowl run with how that defense looked against the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, King Henry is who he is.
One of the greatest running backs of all time. People are talking about the Packers run defense. Yeah, he had a legendary performance. They were showing the stats, he kept breaking records or getting up on the list and stuff. He is one of the greatest running backs of all time.
Charlie, he doesn't even eat sugar. No. The guy doesn't put bad things in his body.
His offensive lineman, it's just crazy.
Yeah, he's an offensive lineman that runs 4.4. That is crazy. So maybe we should be a little bit nicer to the defense, but that was a sad performance. And it's going to take Jordan Love going Super Saiyan. If you watch any of the Dragon Ball cartoons, you get what I'm saying. It's going to take a Tom Brady type performance for the Packers to make that type of run from the 7th seed. To me, I want the Packers to at least win their playing game in the playoffs, and I'm fine with that. But you can live and dream. That the Brewers have shown that they are consistent enough, and baseball is one of those catch lightning in a bottle. I mean, you're gonna have to end up playing the Dodgers, and we all kind of know how that plays out in the movie theater. But I think you gotta, like you said, there are a lot of injuries early on to the Brewers. They ended the season on a real high note. They beat the Cubs. These are all, good signs that the Warlock sees. And I think eventually you have to think that, hey, maybe they could get really lucky in October.
So with, I guess, this idea of the Packers this year not being able to make that kind of run in the Super Bowl, again, people need to stop counting out the Packers.
And I'm not.
The NFL is wide open. I know you're not, but I'm just saying in general. The NFL is really wide open right now. The playoff field is a bunch of teams that the Packers have played really close so far.
Yep.
The Rams don't look unbeatable. Their run defense is atrocious, and their passing offense does take a step back without Devontae Adams on the field. And now I know he's game to game. He could come back in the playoffs, but they're not unbeatable. The Seattle Seahawks, I know they've been one of the hottest teams in football lately. They're not unbeatable. If you can get Sam Darnold to make mistakes, he will make mistakes. That defense can be overly aggressive, and if you can get behind them, you can make them make this mistakes. This Packers team, yeah, you're not going to be without Micah Parsons. Yeah, you're not going to be out with Tucker Kraft on the field. But at the same time, you should have everybody else healthy, ready to go on the field. That has been important in this team's push so far this season. I think the Packers do have a really real chance to still make a run to the Super Bowl this season. And sometimes I think I'm a little more confident in that with an injured Packers team than I am with the Milwaukee Brewers. As much as I love the Brewers and love watching the Brewers, and last season was just so much fun, especially with the whole Euchre storyline. It really just felt like it had more meaning to it. But at the same time, once they hit the playoffs, it was all right, I feel like this isn't going to be that magical run anymore. I was counting them out a lot faster than I think I'm counting out the Packers right now, despite the injuries.
You make great points that there are enough holes in teams like the Niners. We have 3 teams out west that are still deciding on who's going to even win the West and might even take a 1 seed. There's scenarios where tons of teams can take the 1.
The Bears just played the hottest team in the NFC West in the San Francisco 49ers and took them to the wire.
Yeah.
A team that the Packers know they can beat in the Chicago Bears.
Which made me feel like, okay, Tay Diggs can come in here and stay away from acrobatic poles. That's what we'll say. We're a family network here.
Yeah, Sparky said it yesterday, stripper poles.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, acrobatic athletic dancing pole. And maybe not go to concerts when he's saying he's opening presents with his family. I think we'll be okay. I think the best thing that I heard recently was when Micah told him, hey, you're going to come here and work and you're going to like it. I think we are a different culture than the Cowboys, so maybe we can quickly get him into form. I also know that one of our defensive DB coaches has coached Diggs before, so that there's, you know, a relationship there. So that helps in the NFL get up to gear. But I think the run game has to get healthy, and that will make me feel a lot better. Like you said, the Packers can play with all these teams. Will the run defense show up? Because I'll tell you right now, if we can't get rushing on the quarterback and you're just getting gashed 6 and 7 yard carries where Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift are just making Swift cheese of the secondary, that is not good for winning playoff games. You got to be able to stop the run. You got to be able to run the ball.
For sure. And I got one last question for you, Jack. It's about like the one team that we haven't really touched on in Milwaukee sports right now. And I don't know if it has to do with them winning an award, winning a championship, but if you had to put $20, I don't even know if Otto allows you to do this, but I'm going to be like fantasy kind of world here with it. If you had to put $20 on whether or not Giannis Antetokounmpo will start this 2026 season with the Milwaukee Bucks, would you put $20 on that?
Ooh, that's so my heart and head want to say, yeah, you can put that money. It's $20. You can put that money on it. It really, the next 2 months are so important in reality for that question, to see how we perform. Like, look, right now, we've taken 4 out of our last 5,
4 of the last 6.
Okay. Not too shabby with him coming back into the fold and kind of our chemistry needing to get back up to pace. But I think if we're a playoff team and we are a 5th or a better seed, he's coming back because there's moves they can make. And they still are talking about tons of guys, Jerami Grant, who they want to get. I don't know too much about going and getting some other guys that are just offensive guys.
Zach Levine's been talked about.
That's who I was alluding to. And I think we've got good players at home in the fridge, and we don't need to go out for McDonald's or Culver's, you know?
Well, and you're starting to see them again, especially in that game last night, connect a little bit more. And you're seeing that chemistry start to build a little bit. Giannis taking more of a leadership approach, and we'll dive into that at 9:40 here when we get a little bit of time to do that. But I feel like the way Giannis has carried himself since coming back from this injury, it really is there's nothing given easy to this Bucks team. Is kind of his mindset, and that everything they have to work for moving forward here, every single win, doesn't matter who the team is, how much you're winning that game by. Against the Bulls, he went and did a windmill dunk in the closing seconds despite winning by 20 points at that point, and the Bulls didn't like it. That's what you need to do right now. And it feels like this mindset that he's playing with, where there's nothing holding him back at this point from being what he wants to be, or with the type of energy he wants to play with. I think that's something really important to his future with this team. And it's not, in my mind, and I know a lot of people are taking it this way, it's not that he's playing like this because he feels like this is his last chance to play with this team. I think he's playing like this because he does love the city of Milwaukee, and because he loves the Milwaukee Bucks, and because he loves a lot of the guys that he's playing with right now. I think this is a situation where a lot of people need to start giving Giannis more credit for the way that this has all gone down. And I know I've been hard on him, especially lately with the rumors of his agents being the one that are controlling things. They're the ones talking to other teams that he has nothing to do with that. And I get that. But what he's doing on the court right now and what he's showing on the court has shown us that he cares and that he wants to win basketball games with this team right now as it stands. And because of that, unless they completely change the team once again this offseason, I see him wanting to ride with this squad and take them to that next level that they know they can be at, because you can see it in games like this past stretch. And I know it's against bad squads, but there's something about it that I think is wanting to keep Giannis here. And I think he's doing a good job of, at least on the court, showing.
I think you're right in that. And then there's been enough pushback after games where he's like, look, you guys keep asking the same dang question.
You're going to get the same damn answers.
Yeah. And look, no matter what happens in the future, it could be 2-3 years down the road, he's not with us. Giannis has done so much for us and has shown me he cares so much about Milwaukee by showing up. And lots of other guys would say, I'm out, I want to be traded to XYZ and fake injuries. Giannis isn't that type of dude. He's look, the guy went from sharing shoes with his brothers to selling peanuts on a street to the NBA and probably one of the top 3 players in the world. Giannis isn't a guy who doesn't do anything 100% of the way. And that to me, we can catch lightning in a bottle with this basketball team going into an NBA playoffs and surprise some people if we're healthy.
The 414 says, not to jump on a misspoken line, but I love the idea of Taye Diggs playing on the Packers.
Oh, yeah,
Trayvon Diggs. So it's just funny that the actor singer Taye Diggs would be
last week. Last week was John Oliver instead of Colin Oliver. It's okay, guys. I am a little
it's
under the
early.
weather, but
it's
thank
still
you.
Early in the day.
I love that our listeners can laugh along with us. So
that is what we would spend our $20 on if we were hitting up Pato to put some money on our favorite team, our favorite player when it comes to the 2026 upcoming seasons. If you still want to get in on that, be like the 414, hit us up on the Nicolay Law Talking text line, 414-677-1250. Again, 414-677-1250, 12550 to hop on the show that way, or we're live streaming at WI Sports Radio. Comment on there and YouTube or on Twitter would be awesome. We'll read them that way as well. This is Wisconsin Sports Weekend. I'm Charlie Houston. That's Jack Pembroke. And we are live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. And we're presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek Superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. When we come back, we're going to dive into the Green Bay Packers when it comes to the playoffs and whether or not everybody has saved their jobs. Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports Weekend. I'm Charlie Houston. That's my guy Jack Pembroke on the other side of the glass there. And we are live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, and we're presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. If you guys are just tuning in, you want to get on the last topic that we had. We're discussing if you went to Pato, you had $20 in your pocket and you wanted to put it down on your favorite team or your favorite athlete, who would you do it on for the 2026 season? Jack, over in our YouTube chat, you said Tim, our guy, always over there, always hanging out with the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, had some takes that you wanted to share here, right?
Yep. So Timothy Wong says you need to bring Matt back, but if you end the season 5-game skid and blow it in the playoffs, there may be conversations ahead, but I don't see that happening. I'm kind of with Timothy. I just don't see a world where there's a lot of better candidates out there to take on this job, unless it's going to be in-house, unless you're going to make Hafley the head coach and bring in an offensive coordinator to call plays. But that's just, you're putting yourself in reverse for another 3 seasons, and this window's closing. You have a good young quarterback. You have a good running back. You've got good wide receivers. You've got a mess at offensive line. You've got a mess until probably September, and there's, ACLs that are healed. I wish I could I've gone through an ACL tear. I was back to playing basketball. Don't tell my parents or the surgeon, without a brace at 9 months, and I was fine. But that's a lot different for playing pickup at the Y and being Micah Parsons and coming off 9 months. And I know he's going to get the best doctors, and the guy's 26 years old, so we do have a bright future ahead, but there's still lots of questions on the defense too. So I just think it's very tough to pull the plug on Matt LaFleur.
Definitely.
My fault.
Oh, you're good. Let's dive into our next topic here. I wanted to read the first one first, but we'll get into that. I got that one. Good morning, guys. I'm not about turning the page, but so looking forward to 2026 to see this team. I'm sure he's referring to the Green Bay Packers like we're talking about here as well. See this team completely healthy in my heart. They just need to be competitive, and I hope they win. But going back to what he was talking about with Matt LaFleur, and the question that we wanted to ask you is, the Packers are the 7th seed for another year. This has been a pretty long streak for this team. People keep bringing up the stat that if this was 5 years ago, the 7th seed wouldn't exist, and the Packers would have missed the playoffs for 4 straight seasons. Doesn't matter. The 7th seed exists. They're in the playoffs. Everybody's happy about it. Maybe not as happy as we were in the beginning of the season when it felt like they were one of the best teams in football. Their defense was unstoppable. It's a little different now with all the injuries. But we wanted to ask you, is everybody's job safe for one more year just because they made the playoffs? You can hit us up like Tim did on the YouTube chat at WI Sports Radio, or on Twitter as well, where we are also live streaming this show. You can also hit us up on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line 414-677-1250. Again, 414-677-1250, 1250. If I head over there, I got one more from the last topic as well. Jeremy from Racine says $10 Cubs to win the World Series and $10 on PCA for MVP. All right, Jeremy, big Cubs fan there. We will see. I mean, both those things looked pretty good at the beginning of last season, and then both of them fell off the face of the earth at the end of last season too. So we will see what happens with that.
That's why we love betting, though.
Exactly. But you can be like our guy, Jeremy, and hit us up on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line. Jack, with Matt LaFleur, and you brought up all the injuries this season and how talented they are in some of these position groups. Going into next season, especially in the offseason, this Packers team is going to have to make a lot of huge key decisions. Brought up the talent at running back. Josh Jacobs most likely will not be on this team next year. He's making a lot of money. They don't have a lot of money to spend, and they're going to have to free up some veteran spots. Elgton Jenkins is probably going to get cut. You're going to see guys like Rashawn Gary potentially get cut. Quay Walker may get moved on from just because they can't afford a second middle linebacker like that. Is this a situation where you think this upcoming offseason, more so than last offseason, is a test of Brian Gutekunst and part of the reason he hasn't gotten that contract extension yet, despite making the Micah Parsons trade?
Yes, and I also think now, looking back at the Micah Parsons trade, there were talks that they were more interested in Rashawn Gary. I would have gladly kept Kenny Clark and got rid of Rashawn Gary. the way the run game has been.
Yeah, but it's because Devontae Wyatt isn't on the field. And
totally. And we're big lovers of Devontae Wyatt. The last couple of years, we were like, why isn't he playing more? 2 years ago, we were like, this guy is
right.
a
TJ Slayton
beast.
was getting a lot of snaps from him. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, there are a lot of what ifs. I think realistically, you have to get rid of Quay Walker. That's a whole can of worms of he gets pushed off the ball on the run all the time. He's out of position. I don't think he can cover in the pass game. But hey, I've just only been screaming that from the top of my soapbox for the last 3 years. In reality, you got to get rid of him. You got to get rid of Rashawn Gary. And I know I'm being like, death's door and just saying get rid of everyone. But I think you have to try and keep a guy like Enagbare. I think you need to try and keep a Josh Jacobs I know he's expensive, but who are we going to draft?
Anybody else? I mean, the Bears have a seventh round pick, basically taking their starting running back spot their guy that they're paying $11 million to, and Kyle Monungai, the 7th round pick, and then DeAndre Swift, who's getting all the money. I mean, teams have been able to do this. I mean, Bucky Irving wasn't a super high pick. You can find a player like that, maybe in free agency. I mean, there's options.
My caveat there, though, is, and you're going to like this, buffoon shirtless Ben Johnson is really good at finding running backs and being able.
You don't think Matt LaFleur can turn around a running back like that?
I think Matt LaFleur was very lucky in his early career to have a guy named King Henry at the running back position. But I will give you, he has been known no matter where he is coached that he is a great running backs coach. So you're right. And I should try and
he made Aaron Jones into something pretty special.
Yep.
AJ Dillon looked better than he's ever looked in his entire career since. I mean, he went out there and
Emmanuel Wilson, that's
Jamal Williams. Where is he now? Because he got his name and his start in Green Bay's offense.
I hate when you turn me around like a revolving door, but you do it so well, Charlie.
I try to throw you off a little bit sometimes. When I look at this team so far this season, I know what Matt LaFleur can do. And I am confident that Matt LaFleur is a good play caller, can be a good head coach in this league because he's been doing it for the past 7 seasons with this Green Bay Packers squad. I think he can turn running backs around. I think he can work with quarterbacks because we've seen him work with 3 different quarterbacks that are all 3 very different styles of players, 3 different temperaments, 3 different backgrounds in Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, and Malik Willis. Each of them had their own issues that Matt LaFleur learned how to work around with. And I think that's something that's really important. The wide receiver room, we've seen him turn guys that maybe weren't the highest overall picks into pieces that could be important for this team. Maybe not stars, but important key pieces of the Green Bay Packers. Same with the offensive line. He's been able to change all those things and help improve those positions. It's about putting it together. And I guess I want to know, do you feel like Matt LaFleur has done a good job at being able to put it together? Is it just injuries? Is it just bad luck later on these seasons that's just killing them? Or is it a fault of the way Matt LaFleur is able to kind of get these guys to group up?
I think let's take the unbiased fan cap off of me and just like a NFL general fan. Teams always have injuries. You're gonna, now, unfortunately, do teams always have their top 4 players have season-ending injuries? No.
No, that's not common.
I lost my soul at the end of that third quarter in Denver. That's going to be my country music song. I lost my soul somewhere in the third quarter of Denver. Because we looked so beautiful in that game. We were running the rock. Josh Jacobs looked like he could not be stopped. Our defense was getting to the ball. It was a great game. And, we were scoring a lot of points. They were too. But as soon as, and someone who's done an ACL that's non-contact, I knew immediately. And my buddy's like, how do you know? I said, watch on the slow-mo. You'll see the ripple effect with the front of the knee and the tibia. And, I'm sounding like an orthopedic surgeon right now, way above our pay grades. But that's when my soul left my body. And I was like, oh, God, this defense is just, we're going to be so lost right now. And that's when you start to go, okay, well, what can the offense do? What can Matt LaFleur do to make this team tick and win games without a Micah Parsons? And that's very difficult. I think, look, realistically, you can't get rid of him because like who are we gonna go after? A Mike McDaniel, and like you're gonna have to build for another 2 or 3 years for a new system. You're gonna have to get Jordan Love to agree with it. There's all these things that are gonna
Are
have
you
to.
though? I mean, Ben Johnson turned the Bears around pretty fast. Liam Cohen
Yeah,
turned Jacksonville
there's
around
not
pretty
many
fast.
Ben Johnsons out
No,
there.
there's not. And that's a good point too, that you don't have that type of coach available to you. At the same time, though, I think when it comes to Matt LaFleur, the question isn't whether they're going to fire him or really anything this season. It's whether they're going to give him that contract extension. So he still has one more year.
Yeah.
There may be a new round of head coaches that are in that realm of a Ben Johnson style player or play caller coming out in the next round of head coaching candidates. I guess that's where I'm watching right now, is that maybe not. Are they going to move on from a Matt LaFleur this fast? Are they going to pull a Dwayne Casey in Toronto and just fire him after making the playoffs, after making a conference finals, because they just didn't feel like he could take him to that next step? I think this is something where he also gets one more year to kind of prove himself, especially with a healthy team. I think Micah Parsons going down with that ACL tear was a symptom of him almost doing too much for this Packers defense. And I think that when I look at it from that perspective, when I see the fatigue being the general reason why he goes out of that game and is out for the rest of the season, do you think that's more to blame on Matt LaFleur, Jeff Hafley, or Brian Gutekunst in your mind? The fact that the talent around him isn't up to the par, to the point where A, they went and made that blockbuster trade to improve this defense that much, and then B, the fact that he was doing so much for this defense and it resulted in that type of injury, Jack?
I think you're right. It's just so disheartening, and it does show you how much he did for that defense, and how much was kind of the onus was on him. Even though we brought him along, he had the back injury in the early part of the trade period, and we brought him along. He was only 40% of the snaps, heavy third down snaps, and look, that defense was cooking, especially when they are bumping him up to more mileage. They looked great. And look, that's what great players do. Mike is going to make the next 3 or 4 guys around him look a lot more serviceable than what they would without. And we're a bare bones defense right now. The Trayvon Diggs move is to get someone who has been in the past that's been good. It's also to get a guy in that you think it can be around to help Micah in next season. But look, we've had abysmal play from the DBs the last couple of games where we needed them to be one-on-one coverage nightmares, and we just gave up touchdowns at integral parts of games where you just can't give up touchdowns on third downs and in the red zone. It's not like Matt LaFleur can't control the injuries. He can only coach the players he has. And look, that's why if we win this playing game, as I call it, in the playoffs, as a Packer fan, I feel like it's not the expectations you had at the start of the season, but knowing what we know now and the team we have now, if we get one win in the playoffs, I'll be very happy with that.
For sure. This is Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe. We got to hit a quick break here. When we come back, we'll have some time to kind of dive into that Milwaukee Bucks win from last night. Q has some comments in the dugout chat on YouTube at WI Sports Radio that I want to get into. Again, this is Wisconsin Sports Weekend. I'm Charlie Houston. That's Jack Pembroke. We will be right back. Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports Weekend. I'm Charlie Easton, that's Jack Pembroke, and we are live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, and we are presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. We only got about 2.5 minutes here before we got to head back into break with this big old network thing. It makes it kind of hard. We're on a little bit of a time crunch. I did want to dive into the Milwaukee Bucks game from last night, though, where they took down the Charlotte Hornets in a shootout in the final closing minute of that game. Giannis has 30, 10, and 5. Kevin Porter Jr. has 10 assists. Kevin Porter Jr. also has the game-winning assist on the alley-oop to Giannis at the end of the game. I did want to head over to the YouTube chat where our guy Q, resident third co-host, Bucks super fan. He's the guy that you want to go to if you want to get all your Bucks takes. He says, went to the Bucks game last night. Could not believe they came away with a win. Regular season NBA refs are pretty terrible. Bucks behind the entire game because of lopsided free throw attempts. Bucks finished the game with 10 free throw attempts behind the Hornets, 18 versus 28. I get where you're frustrated, Q, but these are wins that you need to take as the Milwaukee Bucks. Yeah, there are issues. They still aren't shooting the free throw as much. And I know that is a symptom of the NBA refs just kind of screwing Giannis sometimes. He gets in the paint so often. But the style of play that he has just makes it so hard for these refs to want to consistently call those penalties and then stop the flow of the game. This situation with the NBA and the way that they referee these players, I think at some point here, we got to stop complaining about how bad it is and just kind of recognize that they're doing this because they don't want the games to stop every 5 seconds. And fans would complain about that then too, Jack.
You know, it is one thing you're taught in my generation, you're taught not to complain about the refs, but at some point they're going to have to start making those calls for Giannis. It doesn't matter how physically capable he is. A foul's a foul.
I get it, but then I guess you have to, in the offseason, go about trying to change the rules then to what is a foul. Be more clear about that. If you don't want to call those penalties on Giannis as often, then you have to find ways to, again, change the rules and maybe make a Giannis rule. It'd be unfair to Bucks fans, to everybody around, but at some point here, the NBA can't just keep flip-flopping with the way that they call these games. But at the end of the day, again, I'm happy the Bucks got a win last night. I don't really care how they got that win as long as they got the win at this point. They're not good enough to be criticizing.
We need W's before we go play some tough teams.
Exactly. It's Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I'm Charlie Houston. That's Jack Pembroke. We're presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. We will be right back.
Hit the shower. Grab your coffee. And get ready to attack the weekend with Charlie Usen and Jack Pembroke as they catch you up on everything Wisconsin sports you may have missed this past week. All before you even finish your breakfast. It's Wisconsin Sports Weekend, brought to you by the Apollo Cafe on Brady Street. 25 years of Greek tradition. Enjoy gyros, souvlaki, fresh salads, and the legendary Zeus burger. Dine in, take out, or get it delivered. Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar of flavor, on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
How we doing, folks? How we doing? I'm Charlie Houston. That's my guy, Jack Pembroke, on the other side of the glass there. And we are Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. Thank you so much for tuning into the second hour of our lovely show here. If you missed any of the first hour, do not fret. You can head back on YouTube, head back on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Rewind the live stream that way. You can also head back on any places where you get your podcast and rewind the show there. We'll have it up and live right after this. Only takes us about like 15 minutes of this. Jack and I are quick with our post-production at this point. We're magical. You could say he's a warlock even.
We're a solid team. It's Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, circa Miami Heat. But,
I see. I see KPJ to Giannis.
Yeah, that's
game.
That's way better. Way better.
For sure. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. If you missed any of that first hour, we talked about heading to Pato and putting some money on your favorite team or your favorite player heading into 2026. We talked about the Packers being the 7th seed for another year in a row, and why that may or may not change the way that the front office goes about managing this team, and the coaches on the sideline, people in the front office, players on the field, maybe even. And then we quickly dove into the Milwaukee Bucks win over the Charlotte Hornets last night. And we were talking with Q in the break here about the way the referees have been calling these games. And we were talking about how Giannis, that example, was not getting a lot of the calls that maybe some of the guys on the Hornets were getting. Q brought up that there were other guys on the team that also weren't getting calls, KPJ, Rollins, when they were in those moments. I think the other part of this, that why some of these refs won't call the game that way, is because the Bucks just don't play in the paint enough, in my opinion. I think offensively, they are on the perimeter 24/7. So when they do go into the paint, everybody is watching the ball. You have more eyes on those plays, which I think generally should result in more foul calls. But at the same time, when you're not attacking the rim as often and they're not seeing those plays as often, it's hard to differentiate between what is a foul sometimes and what isn't a foul sometimes, especially when, again, it's not happening over and over again. And with Giannis, it's completely the opposite. It happens so much that they've just kind of grown numb to it. I think right now this Bucks team just has to start getting more aggressive in the paint, offensively and defensively. And I think that would help them maybe get some more calls, or maybe not get some of the calls that they are getting defensively at this point, if they just spend more time and work harder in the paint.
You make a really solid point there of it's with Giannis. We know that those 50-50 balls, a lot of them are fouls for a lot of other players. And I think you make the point that we need our secondary and third scorers to get to the hoop earlier in the first two quarters to maybe open out that perimeter inside outside game that we do. We are a good perimeter team. We do have players that can rain threes, but you're not going to win games late into the season in the East if you're not going to the cup. If you can't get to if someone other than Giannis can't get to the hoop and collapse defenders, we are in a whole world of hurt and trouble.
And we'll see what happens. I think Doc Rivers, since Giannis has come back, seems to have a better game plan. I think that period without Giannis, they were working really hard to see what they had in some of these other players. And I think because of that, you were seeing those guys drive to the hoop a little bit more often. You saw KPJ and Ryan Rollins get a few more of those foul calls. Again, I just think when Giannis comes back into the flow, it really is just an effect on the rest of the team where the refs just don't want to call that. And again, that's not Giannis's fault, but at the same time, the team then has to get more aggressive and give these refs more reasons to call those fouls, in my opinion. If you can't we can't sit here and just complain over and over again about the foul calls. This has been an issue with Giannis for the past 10 seasons. It feels like he's been in the league for 13, and the past 10, when he's been dominant, it just feels like they start calling those less and less. And again, it's starting to branch out to teams. So you have to find ways to force the refs to give you those calls.
I'm, have the uncle vibes on this show. I'm the older of us two. And I remember when prime Shaq was in LA, or even baby Shaq with Orlando. There were fans from both those teams would always say, oh my gosh, he gets so many no calls when he's underneath or gets touched or slapped. And you see it a lot with Giannis too. He's getting hit on the elbows as he's going up. And well, Giannis can take it. He's physically strong. And that's just, a glance. Whereas other players would be moaning and groaning about being assaulted.
That's Nikola Jokic has flopped every single game this season, and he's probably going to win the MVP at this rate.
Yep. There are definitely free throw merchants out there, and I don't think Giannis has ever been accused of being a flopper or a merchant for free throws. Maybe he takes too long at the free throw line.
I think maybe that's because he's not as good at free throws. I think if he was good at free throws, he'd probably he'd probably get that title.
It was the James Harden knock that he made fun of James Harden, as like, well, at least I don't just try and get fouls all the time. Look, I like I told Q on our dugout chat, they will start to call it tighter because it's not only fans that are noticing it, it's going to hurt the brand of, and referees aren't really thought of that highly in the NBA already. So
any sport.
True. Yeah, it's been a really bad year for refs. The NBA is going to reel in at the All-Star break and say, okay, we can't have no calls on one of our top 3 players in the league. You've got to start calling it a little bit tighter.
But they do that every season. That's every
year.
It's
formulaic.
They have that all-star kind of break, and they're like, okay, we got to change the way we call the game. If you're going to change the way you call the game, it has to be at the beginning of the season. It has to be consistent throughout the season.
You are logical and 110% correct, but we're talking about refs and the NBA and betting scandals and all this stuff that wraps into all of that. And if you still believe that it was one ref that screwed stuff up years ago and that we're all like set now, no, the NBA, I think, needs to really get uniform with how it refs from the start of the season to the end of the season. You make great points there, and you get to be ticked off about it, because it's one of the reasons why in terms of NBA versus college basketball, I'm way more interested in college basketball because there's parity. It's not, I know that in the NBA by January or February, by the All-Star break, that's when the teams need to start playing and people start playing defense and the refs start reffing. And it's like, then why am I even watching the first 3 months of the season?
Do you think this is part of the reason guys like Jokic, guys like Victor Wembanyama have been more consistently shooting 3-pointers and those style of players coming out of the drafts, coming into like free agency, or the way players have changed their play style? Because of the fact that guys like Giannis just don't get these calls, that if they were in the same position, a guy like Victor Wembanyama, who's 18 feet tall and is going to get fouled on almost every shot, part of the reason he's added that 3-point shot into his game or made it a part of his arsenal from a young age so that he can avoid being in the paint as often. And then when he does get in the paint, again, people are noticing the fouls.
I think there's definitely some of that they're just not from the 90s, early 2000s. It's just not, they don't want the same physical inside game. They don't. There's a reason why like the Euro leagues have the wider, lanes, because it actually, you've got to be able to move and pass around. I think where the game's gone though, is it's not 3 guys needed to shoot from the outside anymore. It's everyone needs to have some type of outside shooting ability on a team to stretch the court. And when you have your best player who is 7 feet plus, who can stretch it from 33 feet, that just helps get your other athletes in place and movement. But I think the game is just ref to a point where you don't see as much mid-range and you don't see as much deep 2-and-2. It's more out around the arc and swing type of play off of just shooters.
But you don't think that has anything to do with the way the refs call the game? Like, I get that's how the game has transformed kind of in general, but do you think the way the refs have called the game of basketball has resulted in that kind of change.
It's definitely pushed towards, like, the league is pushed towards that. They're like, we like the threes. We like spread offense. We like people being pulled out. We like higher point games.
So then are the refs being told to call the game harder in the paint, do you think, in your mind? So, like, off of that point, then, yeah, like, I get it. The NBA wants that and wants these things because that's what's sold a lot for him. The NBA had that huge boom when Steph Curry first kind of started breaking those records and getting to that point of being the consistent three-point shooter. Do you think this is a situation that Giannis so far this season has more consistently shot the three? Now, he hasn't made it, but if he were to start making those threes, do you think they'd give him more of those calls in the paint because he's transitioning more to the modern style of basketball than what they want to see? Like you're saying, I think you make a great point that the way the game has transitioned out affects the way those players change their game at a young age. But do you think, again, like guys like Wemby are being told to, yeah, you need to shoot more threes because then it makes your paint play more, I guess, rare. And because of that, the refs will be paying more attention to you in the paint and those penalties, or will give you more of those opportunities. Do you think that Giannis, the way that he's transitioned his play this season, is a result of that and that kind of mindset?
I think you make that question's very good. And I think you are right in a lot of ways in that question, because you do see it that there's like a formula, right? Like during the Harden years in Houston, they weren't going to call a step back, like 2 step backs. And if he got touched, they were going to give him that free throw shot. Now the league kind of tells its athletes like, hey, this is what they want us to call this, at the start of the year. And I think the league doesn't want, and last year it was a thing with SGA. Oh, the guy is a free throw merchant. He's just going to take 30 free throws a game. And we don't want to watch, a free throw contest. So I think that does come into play. And like, look, we're all humans. We all err. Even the best refs, your human inclination is to kind of lean into what's popular. And when your boss is telling you to look for something, you're going to call more that way. My hope is, like every year, they start to go like college basketball where they let you play, but it benefits the offense to go at their defenders and go to the hoop. You're going to get calls, and it's inconsistent in the NBA to where it's frustrating.
Do you feel like defensively players are getting the same kind of unfair treatment, I guess? Do you think that at the same time that we're seeing offensive players like Giannis, more aggressive players in the paint, not get those types of calls, do you feel like there's some guys on defense that are getting too many calls? Maybe not specifically on the Bucks, but just kind of in general across the NBA, that they're not calling that side of things as fairly either if you're a player that's maybe a little bit more aggressive in the paint?
So you're saying like guys on the defensive side getting away with fouls?
No. Guys on the defense, we're seeing a weird kind of shift between the types of players and the way the NBA calls those certain types of players. And offensively, you're seeing, again, Giannis kind of transition his game more to the perimeter in order to open up those opportunities to get those foul calls on offense. I think a guy like SGA, like you brought up before, who has that kind of pretty even split of interior shooting, mid-range shooting, and the three-point shooting, do you think because he is more spread out already that he gets the benefit of the doubt from the refs more often than the defense does when they are going up to block a shot of his at this point? Do you think that, again, that kind of double standard that we're seeing from the play style is affecting the defense as well?
So I think we like the eye test on this show, right? And I think when you watch multiple Giannis games, you see that, like, if you go to a YMCA and there's a guy who's physically bigger than everyone, the refs aren't going to call a lot of the ticky-tack stuff. Now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is more of a 6'4", 6'5" guard, not as big as Giannis, not known for being more of a like John Morant style player, where a great ball handler, is quick like a water spider. He can jump over you, but there's more calls towards guys like him where it's like, oh, he got fouled because he's 210 pounds and the body moves differently, where Giannis is, 260 plus, and a hard foul might look like just a bumper curve touch, on Giannis. And there are the human error of, oh, well, Giannis is big and strong, he can take that. That's not a foul for Giannis, but it might be a foul for someone else. I think just the numbers and the number of no calls when you watch those two play, you can tell that certain players get a better benefit than Giannis.
If we head over to the Nicolay Law talking text line, a guy in the 414 says the NBA shot themselves in the foot when they cracked down, quote unquote, to the extent that they did on penalties in the late 2000s, especially since the 90s were about the single most aggressive era. Now they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I completely agree. I think in the 90s and then in the early 2000s, you saw a lot of different types of players. There were archetypes that you kind of fit into. I think right now what we're seeing in the NBA is a lot more fluid play style from different positions. You can see centers that are passing the ball and are shooting the three just as good as a point guard, or you're seeing point guards who, like you mentioned with Ja Morant, can just fly all of a sudden and maybe don't shoot the three as well, but can block shots, in a Derek White and situations like this where just a lot of players are not fit into an archetype. They have multiple skills. Do you also feel like that's kind of messed up the way the NBA thinks about penalties because there's so many different players that can do the same kind of things as each other? It's hard to kind of differentiate the way you call for certain positions.
I think it did get very athletic, and you make a good point that everyone has the ability for finesse from 1 to 5. There's lots of guys that can play maybe not the 2 to 5, but the 3 to 5. There's a large overbleed. I mean, we used to talk about the power guard, right? When LeBron came on the scene, there's lots of guys that can play that Magic Johnson position that are 6'8", but can run like a gazelle and fill the lanes and pass. Like Jokic can't run like a gazelle, is a guy he's the guy you go to the YMCA and you just see shooting up and you just see play there for hours. And you're like, that's the guy I want on my team. He looks like he just wants a hot dog and a Gatorade at halftime, and he's going to just throw up triple doubles. But that's very rare. We live in an NBA now where it benefits you to be able to play that 3 to 5. And you have to be a scorer at all those positions and be able to pass, or you're not going to be on the court.
For sure. This is Wisconsin Sports Weekend. We got a little sidetracked from our initial topic, which was the college football playoffs. We'll dive into that in the next segment, along with Warlocks Locks, which will make a little more abbreviated considering that it's week 18 of the NFL and there's a lot of games that just don't mean that much. But we do got some games that do mean a lot, and we still want to help you guys cheer on your favorite teams and give you guys a little prediction for what to expect from those matchups. Again, this is Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I'm Charlie Houston, that's Jack Pembroke, and we are presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. Again, when we come back, it'll be time for Warlocks Locks. Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I'm Charlie Houston. That's my guy Jack Pembroke on the other side of the glass there. And this mystical, magical Celtic tavern music that I found.
Look at you, man.
What can I say?
You're ready for Ireland.
I try to keep it in theme, I try to keep it in theme. This is Warlock's Locks, where Jack and I, the Wisconsin Warlock over there, Mr. Pembroke, dive into his magical cheese head and pull out 4 cards for not your fantasy teams anymore. I think most people's fantasy teams are done, but maybe a parlay that you got going. Maybe
I'm still in a championship.
Like, how are you still in? What league do you have?
It's 2 weeks. They do it. It's believe me, it's horrible. If I could change it, I would. But we are where we are.
So we're gonna help you. Maybe if you're in one of Jack's weird leagues and you need help in your championship game still, or again if you're putting up a parlay, something like that.
Daily fantasy,
sportsbook, daily fantasy. There you go. So we're going to dive in, Jackson, pick 4 cards out. We're going to give you a quick prediction for each of those players and help you win some money maybe with your fantasy leagues this week. Jack, who's the first player out there in your Warlock Locks?
Deep into the cheese ball. Oh, yeah. This guy actually might do something. Ricky Pearsall.
All right. This is a big game coming up for the San Francisco 49ers. They're taking on the Seattle Seahawks to win the division. Ricky Pearsall has been a guy that's been hurt on and off so far this season. I know after that last game, again, he was dealing with that knee injury. He is questionable for the game later tonight against the Seahawks. Ricky Pearsall has been a player so far this season when he's been on the field, has been a pretty a nice weapon for San Francisco, mostly because Brandon Ayuk hasn't been on the field. He's not going to be on the field again this week. If Ricky Pearsall is on the field, Jack, what do you expect from him?
I'm thinking he's probably going to get somewhere around 5 receptions. Let's give him over 50 receiving yards. And I think it's going to be tough for him to get a receiving touchdown, though.
That's fair. He has not had one all season long. This is not a team that you want to go up against and try to get one. So we'll see what happens. He's had at least 5 receptions in the past 2 games for this team against the Chicago Bears and the Tennessee Titans. I think that's a pretty fair prediction. Jack, number 2 in Warlock's Locks here.
Okay, back into it. Oh, wow. We are just going with the Niners. Christian McCaffrey.
Ooh, sticking with the same team again, going up against the Seattle Seahawks in a barn burner matchup tonight. Should be a lot of fun to watch for the NFC West there. Christian McCaffrey, we had him last week as well, and we mentioned just how phenomenal of a season he's been having. He had another great week against the Chicago Bears. Jack, what's your prediction for Christian McCaffrey?
Well, last week we had him over 18 points, and he did us justice. So I think we're gonna hit it again. Let's go over 19 fantasy points, but that's gonna look like something like 5 receptions for about 45 yards or more. And we're going to get somewhere along, let's do over 0.5 reception touchdowns. So have him for at least 1 receiving touchdown. And he's going to rush for at least over 60 yards. He's going to give you a big game.
For the 5th straight week, he's had over 20 carries, which is a big workload for a guy like Christian McCaffrey. Has injuries in his past. He also had 4 receptions on 6 targets last week for a total of 180 total yards against the Chicago Bears. I mean, this is a Seattle team that's going to be a lot tougher than the Chicago Bears defense on that side of the ball. His first matchup against Seattle at the beginning of the season, week 1, he had 22 carries for 69 yards and 9 receptions for 73 yards. So I should expect probably a lot of checkdowns against the Seattle Seahawks team. But also last week, you saw Carolina hit a lot of checkdowns against Seattle, and Seattle did not give up almost any yards to those checkdowns. We'll see if that happens again this week against San Francisco. Jack, who's 3rd up on Warlock's Locks?
Okay, not a 49er.
All right.
Mike Evans, oldie but a goodie.
Mike Evans is a guy that so far this season has spent a lot of the time on the injured list. He's back and healthy for this team. They are taking on the Panthers also for a division win here. If they win, they are in. If they lose, there's a pretty high chance that they could be out of the playoffs, depending on what the Atlanta Falcons do this weekend as well. Jack, looking at Mike Evans so far this year, he's not going to hit that 1,000-yard mark. What are your expectations against the Panthers team, whose defense hasn't been as solid as we'd expect?
I think he's got to give you a reception touchdown. I think if you're going to Potawatomi to throw down some shekels, as our boy Sparky says, you're going to say he's going to give you 4 receptions for about 50 plus yards and 1 touchdown. I think that's a good stat line for him.
All right. I like that. You look at Mike Evans, the last few games for him. Last weekend against the Dolphins, had 3 catches on 7 targets for 31 yards and a touchdown. I feel like a touchdown's pretty safe this week for a guy like Mike Evans. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And he's, like you said, he's been injured, which has hurt him because usually he's really consistent in this offense. But I think look for Baker Mayfield to try and win their division and look at his security blanket, Mike Evans.
For sure. And Jack, last up here on Warlocks.
All right, let's make it a good one because we've just been sticking with the red and gold.
We're going to have to get back into NBA next week and stuff, so we're going to have to dive into that. Let's make it a good one.
We did.
We got Ashton Jeanty, rookie running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a team that has locked up the number 1 pick so far at this point in the season. From what we've seen, it looks like they are planning on playing most of their starters. Quarterback's really the only position that they are questioning right now, whether it's going to be Kenny Pickett or Aiden O'Connell. Ashton Jeanty should be out there this week for that team. So far in the season, he has 240 carries for 888 yards for only an average of 3.7 yards per carry. Only has 5 touchdowns on the season as well. If we look at his last game for Jeanty there against the Giants last weekend, he had 16 carries for 60 yards and no touchdowns. Jack, this week for Las Vegas, they are taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, another team that's kind of in disarray. They will be probably benching a lot of their starters, besides like a Travis Kelce, who it might be his last game of the season. What are your expectations for Ashton Jeanty?
Don't expect too much. Don't go spending your money at Potawatomi willy-nilly. Even though it says it's a red hot rookie card, I think maybe he gets a trash time touchdown.
All right.
And you're looking at maybe 45 to 55 yards. I just don't see them. No team has much to gain in this game, and they're not going to try and hurt their starters.
But also at the same time, I feel like for a team like Las Vegas at this point in the season, when you have essentially locked up that top pick, one of the top 3 picks at this point, don't you just want to go out there and give your fans something? And by something, I mean, give Ashton Jeanty the ball. Just see what happens. Just give him it the entire game. Throw it to him a little bit more. Like, don't you want to see him get more involved and have that big game before the end of the season?
I should have seen this coming when, great athlete, great coming out of college. But that line is the bottom 3 offensive line. And you could have Herschel Walker sitting behind that line, and it's still going to be tough running because there's no one to block. So hopefully they get a nice lineman for him for a late Christmas present.
We will see. We will see. That will do it for this year's NFL Warlocks Logs. We're going to keep it going, go with some other sports here, see if we like doing that. And we'll see how that goes. Thank you for joining us for the fantasy football version of Warlocks Locks all season long. Those last picks for you there were Ricky Pearsall, Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans, and Ashton Jeanty. Had a couple starts and a couple sits there if you were building a daily fantasy lineup or a parlay this week. Jack, I did want to dive a little bit into the college football playoffs here. It's been a lot of fun so far this season. You've seen some blowout games. You've seen some really close games. But the blowout games don't feel as bad as they did last season in the college football playoffs. What has been your overall experience with the CFP this year, and do you like it better than how it played out last season?
Yes, immediately. Yes, I like how it's playing out this year versus last year. I mean, I wasn't mad how it played out last year. I think I'm going to really spark some interest across the penalty box here to your side, that it's really been proven to be a game of inches out there this year. And I know you being an offensive lineman, you are pumped to see IU, the Hoosiers, their offensive line won the award for their bowl game win. That was evident on the scoreboard. That was evident that Indiana seems to be a very complete team, and they humbled Alabama.
Mm-hmm. I've talked about this with Sparky yesterday. Usually the national championship winning team, especially recently, like over the past 5 or 6 years or so, they've had the Outland Award trophy winner, which is the best offensive line in the country. It feels like Indiana is kind of trending towards that. Before the show, we were talking about head coach Kirk Cignetti and then quarterback Fernando Mendoza. The duo of those two guys, do you think it will translate as well next year when Mendoza goes to the NFL? Do you think he'll perform as well in the NFL without Cignetti? And do you think Cignetti will perform as well with Indiana at the college level without Fernando Mendoza?
Quick answer for Cignetti. I'll quote him. If you want to know about my recruiting and my winning, Google me. I win. That's how I get people. So I think he's quickly proven that the hype is somewhat real for him. If you go there, you're going to be in, what a lot of people and companies try and say is, family. And that, but I really think he's quickly turned that school into a football school that was only ever, when I was at Madison, we beat them 76-7 or something. So
they're the losingest program in all of college football history.
Yeah. So actually just good on him. He's proven that if you go there, he can turn you into winners. I think they proved that they dominated the portal. I think you still want to see anytime a good young quarterback, Heisman winner too, goes to the NFL, it's always difficult to predict how that performance is going to be. I think he's a smart, cerebral player. I think he's athletic when he needs to be, and I think he's really accurate, and he makes NFL throws. He's able to hit people outside the numbers accurately.
Do you think his arm talent, his throwing power is good enough for the NFL level?
Yes, but like anything, Jamarcus Russell could throw from his knees 70 yards and people thought he was the next bee's knees, but it's hard to say is this guy the next Tom Brady? No, people didn't even know Tom Brady was the next Tom Brady. So I think he's got a chance to, if he gets with a good program and a good team, he can develop into being a top 10 quarterback. And I think that's what any good professional team wants, is you want someone can get you to win a couple games and get you deep in the playoffs.
Especially for a team like Las Vegas, who does have a lot of talent on that roster, but you need a quarterback who's ready to go right away and ready to play for you right away and can make those smart decisions on the field. So that could be a team to watch right away at the beginning of the draft there. Let's take a look at some of the other games. Oregon takes down Texas Tech 23-0 in kind of the worst game of the college football playoffs so far. It was really defense heavy at the beginning of the game, and then Oregon just kind of tired out Texas Tech's defense. We're able to make a lot of great plays there towards the end. I want to talk about the other two actually good games, though. Let's start with Ole Miss going up against Georgia in a game they were down 17, able to come all the way back and figure it out and just be resilient. Do you think this is a situation where the team is really playing behind the fact that Lane Kiffin did them dirty and went to LSU kind of overnight after calling out student reporters for calling him names, and then we're calling that kid a name and yelling at him, telling him that he'd never leave, blah, 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 all this other stuff, and then he leaves almost immediately afterwards? Do you think this team is just that talented, or are they really playing with this chip on their shoulder that's helping carry them through these wins?
So, like I usually answer you, I think it's two things. Their interim coach deserves all the accolades for keeping this together. And I think, like any good coach, if you or I were in that situation, yeah, you're going to feed off that energy. You're going a little bit to the dark side of the force here, and you're saying, hey, he didn't want to be here. He didn't want us. Let's go out there and win these games and prove that we didn't need him, So prime example, they were wearing the most hated Lane Kiffin era jerseys that he hated as soon as he left. I love that. I love that energy. I want to see more of it. I'm a Big Ten guy. I lean towards the Big Ten, but I am excited to see Ole Miss kind of get their revenge early on, because that's what Lane Kiffin's leaving, is to go, quote unquote, win a national title at a bigger SEC program. And wouldn't it be perfect, Charlie, if he leaves and Ole Miss goes on a run without him?
I think what helps him, though, and what some people are ignoring with this whole Ole Miss situation, is everybody's saying, oh, Ole Miss is doing so good right now. Look at how great they can be even without him. And then they're like, oh, he's going to LSU, and talking about how LSU has the same overall record as Minnesota the past three seasons, and how they're like, that's not the prestigious program that it was. Newsflash, folks, the SEC just isn't as prestigious as it was one season ago. It's kind of wide open right now. And the fact that Ole Miss is able to take this jump so quickly with Lane Kiffin as head coach, and now that he's left, I think LSU isn't that far behind. A lot of the rest of the SEC looks like they're in the same kind of spot. You're going to get a ton of recruiting money from LSU, and he's getting paid to watch Ole Miss win games by LSU. LSU is paying him money. Ole Miss doesn't even have to pay that money.
And Lane Kiffin has proven he can go out and find you a quarterback to plug into a money offense.
I mean, Trinidad Chambliss has just looked awesome in that game.
Good for him, man.
Really cool story.
He's rising up the charts for the NFL draft. Maybe incorrectly, but good for him. I love his story. I love what he's done, and it'd be a great Cinderella story.
Well, and I compared his play style to two guys yesterday as well. Two very kind of end of the spectrum people. Caleb Williams at the top, number 1 overall pick, a guy who's really taken that next step this season as a quarterback in the NFL. And then also Shedeur Sanders, who fell really hard in the draft. And I don't think that's because of Chambliss's personality. I'm not saying that, just their play style. And Caleb Williams has shown that kind of run around in the pocket, be able to make plays off script. You can win games that way, and he's really good at winning that games that way. But then also Shedeur Sanders on the other side, who runs around in the pocket, can make plays off script really well. He kind of got the knock because he was playing at a school like Colorado where it kind of boosted his stats a little bit. It wasn't done at a USC, a premier university with history there for that football program. And then he also is doing a lot of the things that Caleb Williams did wrong in his rookie season, like at an extensive level that Shedeur Sanders is playing with. So there's really two kind of opposite ends of what Chambliss can be. And playing at Ole Miss, making that jump from Ferris State, a D2 powerhouse, to a SEC team as a starting quarterback, I think he's leaning more towards a Caleb Williams than he is a Shedeur Sanders at this point. And both those players still have a lot of career ahead of them. They could flip-flop. Caleb Williams could end up being awful. Shedeur Sanders could take off with a new team and a new coaching staff. But Chambliss, I think, is really another product of this kind of modern style quarterback where you are seeing guys be able to do things less in a system and more on their own and still be able to win football games, which is really cool to see. The last game from this past week was Miami taking down Ohio State. Jack, I know you just said you're a Big Ten guy, but did that feel good?
I think, look, I always make fun of them. I grew up remembering when Ohio State Miami games were really good. Just epic Tostitos bowl game. If you were around for it, man, that was perfect TV. But in reality, I think it's good. I know you're a Miami guy, so I'm glad the U back. I think they look pretty good. They look
pretty damn good. I said this with Sparky yesterday too. They look like one of the only teams in this college football playoff that are firing on all cylinders.
They can win on any level. If it has to be a defensive game, you know what? I would love to see an IU Miami game. I think that would be we
could see it. That'd be really cool too. Jack, looking at these future matchups, you brought up Miami and Indiana maybe in the finals, but at the same time, Indiana's got to go through Oregon first, who they played earlier in the season, and it was a great battle. And then Miami's got to get through Ole Miss now. Which of those two teams are going to make it to the national championship? Well, not just who you want, but who do you think?
Yeah, Ole Miss could be very surprising. I think they're kind of on the same chip on their shoulder as Miami. Miami is unexpected. People made fun of their wins comparatively to other teams that they've now beaten. I think Miami also has that chip on their shoulder that they're not, quote unquote, an SEC or Big Ten team. So there's that storyline. In reality, being a Big Ten guy, I'd rather see the ACC team win that game. But for the storyline of not liking guys like Lane Kiffin, I want to see Ole Miss win that game.
Right. I think that would be cool to see Ole Miss take that jump too and make it to a national championship game basically off of the screw you to Lane Kiffin. Yeah. That's so cool to me. I think that's awesome. And Indiana, just that flip turnaround. It'd be could see Oregon, I guess, just because they are a Big Ten team too, even though they're not. No, they're really a Pac-12 team that's hanging out in the Big Ten right now. I all think that's so weird, but it would be cool to see Indiana make that turnaround, go and win a national championship. And then, like you said, I'm a U fan. I want to see them go and take down Ole Miss still. But right now, out of these four teams, I'm just happy it's not Alabama. I'm happy it's not Georgia. I'm happy it's not the same 10 teams that we see all the time. It's four teams that, have deep histories, but at the same time are making those comebacks. And it's cool to see that you can see that type of resurgence.
We've got a basketball college dominating football right now. And I love that. I love that about college sports.
It's pretty cool. All right, that will do it for Warlocks Locks, and then that little college football wrap up there for you guys. When we come back, it'll be time for the Wisconsin Sports Weekend Bar Crawl. I'm Charlie Houston. That's Jack Pembroke on the other side of the glass, and we are live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. Like I said, when we come back, it'll be time to crawl. Wrong, I think. Oh, that sounds much better. It is Wisconsin Sports Weekend live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I'm Charlie Houston. That's my guy, Jack Pembroke, on the other side of the glass there. And when the Irish jig comes on, you know it's time for the Wisconsin Sports Weekend Pub Crawl. If you are just tuning in for the first time ever, we will explain it real quick for you. Jack and I will go back and forth, share some stuff we heard from around the world of sports, maybe around the world of science, history. Sometimes Jack gets into his little teacher mode, Professor Pembroke.
I like that. That might be a fantasy team name next year.
There you go. I like that too. So we're just going to dive right into it. I'll start off and then Jack will go and I'll go again until we run out of time here on Wisconsin Sports Weekend. I will start off with some legal updates from the New England Patriots, one of the best teams in the AFC. May not be one of the best teams when it comes playoff time because two of their best players, Stephon Diggs and Christian Barmore, defensive tackle. Stephon Diggs, wide receiver, if you are not familiar. Both those players are in deep water, hot water with domestic abuse allegations, both put up against them in the span of 2 days. Stephon Diggs got called out by his personal chef with text messages, all these other things, apparently saying that he was abusive to her when she was working for him. And then Christian Barmore from an ex-girlfriend, same kind of deal, get some allegations put against him. Jack, what were your thoughts when you saw both of those? And do you think Stephon Diggs is kind of at all related to Trevon Diggs getting released? Is there any situation there where you think both these brothers, Stephon Diggs is a little bit of a bad egg? Is this kind of a bad sign for the Packers picking Trevon Diggs?
So this is how I look at that, is Trevon Diggs was in a situation in Dallas where he did not want to be there. So what do you do when you have senioritis? You stop going to class. You act up. So I would hope that's more of that. All I know is Trevon Diggs is married and has kids, and he has not had the same issues that his brother has in terms of domestic violence. Look, once you start occurring lots and lots of cases, it's not usually a good sign. It's not that this person's a random person making stuff up. And now it starts to look like there's a pattern. So for Stephon Diggs, he's been an important role for the Patriots, and that's a little bit scary going into the playoffs.
For sure. Jack, what do you got up first on football?
So we are going to go into science right here. Japan has now successfully treated multiple spinal cord injuries with stem cells. And you might ask, what's that mean, Jack? What's going on here? And so they've involved an injection to these sites where the stem cells now create tissues where they reconnect everything electronically and to your whole nervous system. This guy was able to walk again and full movement of his extremities. Now, is he running in the Olympics? Probably not. But to go from being a complete paraplegic and then now being able to walk after a couple, stem cell injections, Star Trek is real.
Huh? That's pretty cool. Again, that's something that the NFL may eventually be able to use for guys like Ryan Shazier, whose careers were ended by back injuries. And it took him a long time to be able to start walking again. That's really cool to see that we're making those kinds of advancements. Next up here on the pub crawl for myself, I wanted to dive into the 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame finalist list. No Green Bay Packers in this one, but last year we got some love for them, so that's all right this year. Willie Anderson, tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals. Drew Brees, Jari Evans, Larry Fitzgerald, Frank Gore, Torrey Holtz, Luke Kuechly, Eli Manning, Terrell Suggs, Adam Vinatieri, Reggie Wayne, Kevin Williams, Jason Witten, Darren Woodson, and Marshall Yanda, all on that list. They're a pretty awesome list. A lot of guys that are legends of the game that are not going to be put into the Hall of Fame because there are just other legends there as well. Jack, if there's one name you could pick on there that could make the NFL Hall of Fame, who would you pick out of all those guys?
Ooh, Larry Fitzgerald.
Larry Fitz, I like that too. I would say Drew Brees is probably the lock for me, but I think both those guys are easy locks. Jack, we only got a little bit of time left here. One more for you.
Way too early, Elite Eight, Final Four locks. We kind of alluded to the Cyclones earlier, but I'm hammering my picks last year that both I had Houston going to the Final Four. They made me proud and got to the finals. I think you can lock both those teams in for an Elite Eight visit and a Final Four visit the way they're playing right now.
Awesome. That'll do it for the Wisconsin Sports Weekend Pub Crawl. and subsequently will do it for Wisconsin Sports Weekend today. I'm Charlie Houston. That's Jack Pembroke over there. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned tomorrow after the Packers game for the Green Bay Football Postgame Show with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer and Tommy Worst, powered by Lakeland University. Yeah, this was Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Bray Street.